Welcome to Weasel Gaming, and today we're going to be talking about the Galarian Sirfetch'd theme deck and the tactics to play it well. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into what's in that deck. You have 18 fighting energy. The entire deck is based around fighting type, so all you have is your fighting energy. In the Pokemon, you have the cards that you're looking for to be your starters, the stuff you want to draw right at the start of the game. It's your Passimian and your Sudowoodo. Passimian has Call for Family, which allows you to pull 2 basic Pokemon from your deck and put them on the bench. Sudowoodo has a 1 energy draw for drawing 2 cards, which isn't bad. Now, out of these 2, I do prefer Sudowoodo. His Flail ability is nice and cheap with 1 energy. You're going to have 1 energy on him for your draws anyways. And, you know, if he's at full health, he's not going to do any damage. But as he takes damage, he gets to return damage. Passimian, on the other hand, with his 3 energy Rock Hurl for 70 damage is very inefficient, especially in this deck. You're going to want to be using that energy in much better ways. So using Passimian for damage is really only going to happen if you're really, really desperate. Next up, we'll talk about Diglett and Dugtrio. Diglett himself is very weak. 50 health, 1 attack for 20 damage. That's really not going to hold up very well. Dugtrio isn't much better. 90 health, the 2 energy Mud Bomb attack for 70 damage isn't very impressive. It is better than Passimian's attack. Then you have the 1 energy Dig attack. And this is the one area where Dugtrio has some use. 1 energy is pretty cheap. It only does 30 damage, so it's not a big hitter. But it allows you a 50-50 chance to block all incoming damage on your opponent's turn. So Dugtrio becomes a stalling card. If you need to stall for time to pull some more energy to build up the rest of your Pokemon, then Dugtrio is not a bad option. For 1 energy, he's got a 50-50 chance to stall for a turn. If you're really lucky, you could stall for 2 or 3 turns this way. So, a little bit of use there. Next up is Jerner. 140 health is pretty impressive. His 3 energy Mega Kick for 80 damage isn't very impressive, especially for that kind of energy usage. But if you're building him up, you're facing a basic out there, you want to knock him out quick, and you got more energy you can put on him next turn, it's not a bad idea to use Jerner in that way. The 4 energy Power Press is a little bit better at 120 damage, but 120 damage for 4 energy isn't great either. The one side effect of this, though, is if you can throw 1 extra energy on Power Press, you can actually buff Jerner to do 180 damage. And that is impressive. 180 damage is enough to knock out almost anything else in theme play. So Jerner does a lot of damage. Next up is Hippopotus and Hippodon. Hippopotus is pretty impressive with 100 health for a basic Pokemon. His 1 energy Tackle isn't very impressive, but the 4 energy Double Stomp is pretty nice. It does 70 damage, and you get to flip 2 coins, doing an additional 30 damage for each heads. That means that Hippopotus can do 70, 100, or 130 damage as a basic, which is pretty impressive. A lot of times if I have Hippopotus down, and I do not have Jerner, I do not have Sirfetch'd, I'll just start stocking up energy on Hippopotus because using him alone is a decent strategy if you can't pull better cards. The evolved version, Hippodon, is even more impressive though. At 150 health, he's got a 3 energy Triple Smash that allows you to flip 3 coins. And the attack does 80 damage for each heads. So you're going to be doing 0, 80, 160, or 240 damage. 240 is pretty high. I wouldn't typically use Triple Smash unless I was kind of in a desperate situation. because, again, you could do 0, you could do 80. You might do 160, which is better than Land Crush. And every once in a while, you're going to do 240, but that's going to be pretty rare. So, again, that's a desperation type attack. The 4 energy Land Crush, though, is 150 damage, which is pretty impressive. It gets right up there to where it's a major threat to most things in theme play. This deck, for the most part, is going to center around these 2 Pokemon, Jerner and Hippodon. Jerner and Hippodon are going to be your big players. They have a lot of health. They can do a lot of damage. They're going to be your consistent fighters throughout this theme deck. Next up is the Farfetch'd family, with Galarian Farfetch'd and Galarian Sirfetch'd. Farfetch'd isn't very impressive. As a playable card, it's really not worth your time. However, Galarian Sirfetch'd isn't too bad. Only 130 health, which is a little on the low side. The 1 energy Pierce only does 40 damage, which really isn't good for doing anything but taking out basics. The 3 energy Meteor Assault, though, is pretty impressive, as it does 180 damage, which again gets you up to Jerner's level, where you can knock out almost anything in theme play. So Meteor Assault is a strong potential attack. The downside, however, is that you cannot use Meteor Assault again until it leaves the active spot. So you need to pull Sirfetch'd back to your bench and redeploy him out to the field again before you can use Meteor Assault a second time. And that's a bit of a problem. However, this deck does have a way to deal with that. You have 2 cards, Birdkeeper and Switch. Switch, of course, allows you to switch any Pokemon from the active spot to the bench. Birdkeeper does the same thing, but Birdkeeper also allows you to draw 3 cards. So that's pretty nice for getting more cards in your hand, drawing more energy, those kind of things. A good combination here is that if you keep Passimian, Sudowoodo, a Diglett, or a Dugtrio on your bench with a 1 retreat cost, you can switch your Birdkeeper Sirfetch'd from the front line, stick out one of those 1 energy retreat cards, pay their 1 energy retreat cost, and you can get Sirfetch'd out for another Meteor Assault in the very next run. In the very next round. However, with Sirfetch'd 130 health, he's really never going to get more than about 2 of those unless the opponent really doesn't have any way to counter you. Now, this is a very energy-dependent deck. Jerner, Hippopotus, Hippodon, even Sirfetch'd require quite a bit of energy. In fact, just across 4 Pokemon only, if you're looking at your Jerners and your Hippodons fully powered up, you're going to be using all 18 of your available energy. And that's going to be a problem. So your biggest issue is dealing with that energy dependency. To that effect, you do have a lot of cards to help you play that out. You do have 4 Hops and 2 Professor's Research just for drawing cards. Hop allows you to draw 3. Professor's Research allows you to discard your hand and draw 7 more cards. Now you do have 4 Hops, like I said, so that's a lot of drawing potential right there. Professor's Research in this deck, I would be really careful about throwing away any energy unless you're very desperate. But if you're down to, a mid to late game, all you have in your hand is Passimians and Sudowoodos and Digletts and stuff, maybe some other support cards you don't need, then go ahead, play that, dump some cards so you can draw more, especially if you're running low on energy. Also, to help deal with energy, you have Bead and Turbo Patch. Bead allows you to attach a basic energy card from your hand to one of your benched Pokemon. So this is really handy in that it allows you to actually play 2 energy per round when you use Bead. You get to play 1 energy anyways. Bead allows you to play a second one to a benched Pokemon. This is very helpful in getting those energy expensive attacks up and ready with Hippodon, Jerner, etc. Turbo Patch gives you a 50-50 chance to attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to a basic Pokemon. So again, this is a good way to recover some of that lost energy because this is an energy dependent deck. The one area this deck kind of struggles in is getting Pokemon onto the bench. Passimian can help a little bit there. You do have 2 Great Balls. That allows you to look at your top 7 cards and pull a Pokemon out. You also have 2 Sonias. And Sonia can be used to pull 2 basic Pokemon or 2 energy cards. Now in this deck, I often will just keep Sonia for drawing energy. This deck is very energy dependent. Sonia can add 2 energy to your hand from the deck. If it's early to mid game and you're running out of Pokemon to play and you desperately need to get something else on that bench, Sonia's not a bad one to play to grab those basic Pokemon. But more often than not, you're going to be keeping Sonia for drawing energy. And your other card in the deck is the Pokemon Catcher. 50-50 chance to force the opponent to switch their active Pokemon with a benched Pokemon. That's really the only manipulative card that you have to play against your opponent. Decks you need to watch out for, anything with grass energy, as you have a lot of weakness to grass energy. The exceptions to that being Passimian and Farfetch'd and Sirfetch'd, who are weak to psychic energy. So keep that one in mind. So the big decks you need to watch out for right now are, of course, Rillaboom, any older grass-focused decks. You gotta kind of watch out for some psychic, but you don't have a lot of psychic weakness. The Zacian deck, surprisingly, is kind of a tough one too. Another area you have to watch out for is your flying type decks, because they tend to be resistant to your fighting damage. Zacian has some flying type cards in its deck, but it also has Probopass. Probopass has a 1 energy attack for, I believe, like 120 damage against targets that have 4 retreat cost. Probopass's 1 energy attack has bonuses against higher retreat costs. So against Jerner, against Hippopotus, against Hippodon, Probopass for 1 energy can do a lot of damage. So that's why you have to watch out for that Zacian deck. But again, anything with a lot of flying types is going to be a problem for you. Anything with grass type is going to be a problem for you. Looking at the charts, we can see that this deck is a power-focused deck. We got a power rating of 4 here, and power is just the ability to do damage. There's a lot of big heavy hitters in this deck, and they can do a lot of damage. Speed is dealing with how fast the deck can start hitting with its big Pokemon, and this deck is not very speedy. The high energy cost, the difficulty in placing that energy makes it so it's not the quickest deck out there. Agility deals with how well Pokemon can get onto the bench, evolved and ready to fight. And again, this is not the most agile deck. You have a little flexibility here to draw some cards, get some Pokemon out there, but not a lot of ways to get them evolved very quickly or get them up to power. Efficiency deals with energy efficiency. How well does this deck handle drawing energy, playing energy, recovering lost cards? And it's okay. You have a lot of different ways to try to draw energy, a couple different ways to help place that energy and even recover some energy from the discard pile. So efficiency's sitting at a 3. Complexity of play is a 2. It's a fairly simple deck to play, very straightforward. Really the only trouble areas are manipulating Sirfetch'd to get the most out of him with your switch cards and Birdkeeper. And a little bit of energy manipulation, trying to make sure you get the most out of that energy, playing the right cards at the right time for that. High complexity means you're going to be it's a harder deck to play, but also a harder deck to counter. The lower score here means it's easier to play, but also easier to counter. People are going to know what you're trying to do. Resiliency is a 3. Now, resiliency usually is assigned to high defensive decks, and there isn't really a lot of defensive ability in this deck, but there is a fair amount of health. A lot of high health numbers make it so that this deck can fare pretty well out there in combat. Type ability is not only your spread of types, but your ability to handle various type decks, and in this case, it's a 1. Every card, every Pokemon is a fighting type. So if they have any kind of counter to that, you're going to be kind of hurt. Also, you're weak to grass and psychic. Grass is going to counter you well. So it's not the best when it comes to type. Also, it's a very low manipulation deck. You're not going to be doing much to toy with your opponent. You're not going to be manipulating their cards, their deck, their playing field at all. So, there you have the Galarian Sirfetch'd deck. Straight up powered deck, meant to do high damage, high energy cost. Hopefully this will help you make the most of that theme deck in play. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.